Richard Dawkins posted the following words on Twitter a few days ago. "You are Islamophobic." No, I'm phobic about FGM, female genital mutilation, whipping women for being raped, pushing gays off buildings, honor killing, death for apostasy, extramarital sex, etc., teaching children anti-scientific nonsense. I'm not Muslim phobic. Muslims are main victims of the above. Richard Dawkins has to make this clarification because he has been accused of being Islamophobic quite often over the years. Which is very funny because Richard Dawkins primarily focuses on religion and has criticized Christianity more than any other religion, but he's never accused of being Christophobic, but always of being Islamophobic. My dear friend Mohammed Hijab wanted to fact-check Richard Dawkins' words and made the following tweet. FGM, provide evidence. Whipping women for being raped, false. Honor killing, false. Death for apostates, for treason in an Islamic state. Extramarital, 100 lashes before marriage. Teaching children anti-scientific nonsense, false. You don't know the basics. So I wanted to fact-check Richard Dawkins and Mohammed Hijab on Twitter, but then I thought Twitter is too small. I can't use enough words. Which is why today I decided to sit down and fact-check Richard Dawkins and Mohammed Hijab. The first topic is female genital mutilation. In Islamically correct words, this is called female circumcision. This is a practice that is very widely practiced in Muslim cultures around the world. It is defended and recommended by Islamic scholars around the world. So it is definitely not something that is entirely disconnected from Islam. In fact, we have certain hadiths, certain reports from Muhammad, and his only advice to somebody performing female genital cutting is that they shouldn't be too severe in the cutting, which is of course no condemnation of the issue. In Sunni Islam, female genital cutting is obligatory, recommended, and considered honorable, depending on what school we are talking about and what scholar we are talking about. Among the four prominent schools of Islamic law, the Shafis agree that it is obligatory to circumcise a little girl. The Malikis are somewhere between obligatory and recommended, whereas the Hanafis and the Hanbalis consider it honorable. It's a nice thing to do, good for the future husband. This is simply backed up by looking into sources, books of Islamic scholars. I have one very popular one of the Shafi school here, Reliance of the Traveler, the most accessible book of classical Islamic law in English. Here we read, circumcision is obligatory for both men and women. For men, it consists of removing the prepuce from the penis, and for women, removing the clitoris. Additional commentary says, Hanbalis hold that circumcision of women is not obligatory but sunnah, while Hanafis consider it a mere courtesy to the husband. According to the World Health Organization, circumcision or female genital mutilation is separated into 4 different types. And Muslims will generally argue that their female genital cutting, their female circumcision, is not considered female genital mutilation, but it is. According to the World Health Organization, no form of female circumcision is necessary. There is no health benefit to it, unless there is an extraordinary situation and it requires some intervention. There is only harm. This is a religious, non-medical intervention, and there is no benefit to it. There is harm. I find it funny that Mohammed Hijab said provide evidence in response to this instead of just saying false, because he knows that it is not false. It's just a matter to argue about. Whipping women for being raped. This is a matter that is controversial. Under appropriate circumstances, according to Islamic jurisprudence, a woman who is raped should not be whipped and punished for being raped if it is proven that she was indeed raped. The issue is that this is a very problematic matter, and it is very hard to prove that a woman was indeed raped. And if a woman admits that she had sexual relations with somebody, and she cannot prove that it was indeed rape, that it was forced, it might be a very big problem due to the Islamic system to get out of that situation, because a woman may not be able to bring evidence, to bring witnesses, and to prove that this did indeed happen. And this might result in her being punished for adultery instead. This is a common problem. Mohammed Hijab could address this issue and say, this is not Islamic, but it happens, instead of saying false. That is simply dishonest. Pushing gays off buildings is something that Mohammed Hijab did not respond to because he knows that he has no proper response to it. Gay people, if it is proven or admitted that they had sexual intercourse, are supposed to be punished by death in Islam, and pushing them off a high place while the public watches is one of the methods that have been accepted in Islamic jurisprudence and history. Next, honor killings. Let us look at a certain hadith here in which Mohammed is reported to have said something very interesting. Sa'd bin Ubadah said, "If I found a man with my wife, I would kill him with the sharp side of my sword." When the Prophet heard that, he said, "Do you wonder at Sa'd's sense of ghaira, self-respect, or protective jealousy? Verily, I have more sense of ghaira than Sa'd, and Allah has more sense of ghaira than I." So a man says, if I found my wife sleeping with somebody else, I would get my sword and kill him. And Muhammad then does not say, no, don't do that. Do not take matters into your own hands. This is not what we do. First, you have to bring it to a court and prove it and this and that. No, what he says is, are you guys surprised by his protective attitude? Well, I will tell you, I have even more of that, and Allah has even more than I. This vigilantism that you see here is not unusual. It is found throughout Muslim society. Because of this, not only the killing of a man who sleeps with your wife, but also the killing of your wife, or the killing of your wife because you think she did something wrong, or the killing of daughters because you think they have dishonored the family, are quite common in the Muslim world. Because Muslims are praised for having this protective jealousy, this aggressive protective jealousy. You will find again in books of classical Islamic law that parents who kill their own children for different reasons, different circumstances, are not subject to a law of retaliation, which is similar to when a Muslim kills a non-Muslim. According to some Islamic scholars, you can take matters into your own hands if there is no proper authority. According to others, you can't. You have to leave it to the judge. Insofar, it is quite unsurprising that honor killings, as much as they may not be entirely allowed or condoned by Islamic laws, are so prevalent within Muslim culture and always have been. When it comes to death for apostates, it's funny that Mohammed Hijab, who previously said that he believes in exiling apostates, now merely says apostates are killed for treason in an Islamic state. It looks like he quietly acknowledged that he was wrong, and he's now quietly going with the flow of the Islamists again. But his excuse that this is for treason in an Islamic state doesn't mean anything. Apostates are to be executed under Islam. Fact. In response to extramarital relationships, I don't know what Mohammed Hijab is doing here. He's saying extramarital 100 lashes before marriage. Extramarital sex refers to a married person having sex with somebody outside of their marriage. That is adultery and is punished with death in Islamic laws. Whereas people who fornicate before they are married are punished with 100 lashes. Mohammed Hijab is not refuting anything here. He's making a very strange comment. And as far as teaching children anti-scientific nonsense is concerned, I would say that the Quran is very big anti-scientific nonsense. And we can talk about that forever. I mean, it teaches all kinds of nonsense about the origin of humans, about the sky above us, and the stars, and the sun, and the moon, and so on. We have talked about this lengthily. I made a long video in which I made an analysis of scientific nonsense in the Quran in response to Mohammed Hijab. You can watch it here. I've made a video of 60 scientific mistakes in the Quran. The assertion that Islam does not teach anti-scientific nonsense is of course only an opinion on Mohammed Hijab's behalf, and it happens to be a wrong one. So when it comes to the accuracy of Richard Dawkins and Mohammed Hijab here, what Richard Dawkins said about Islam is significantly more accurate than what Mohammed Hijab gave as a response. Insofar, Richard Dawkins' criticism of Islam here is very much accurate. This is not about extremism, it's not about fundamentalism, this is about Islam. And there is nothing wrong with being against Islam or being against these practices that are part of Islam and Islamic society. Thank you, dear Richard Dawkins, for bringing such things to light. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you want to support what I'm doing, please support this channel on Patreon or on apostateprophet.com. I will be back very soon. Have a fantastic day and stay away from Islam.